Supernormal powers can be a factor of birth, herbs, mantra, tapas or samadhi. So we're back to supernormal powers again. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras is not about supernormal powers. Book 3 is not about supernormal powers. It gives the impression it's about supernormal powers, but there's clearly something more going on. And Patanjali's using that understanding to offer us something more deep, more insightful, more in keeping with the nature of wisdom. But there's nothing deep about this sutra here, Sutra 1 of Book 4. It's as if somebody has gone with the conventional understanding that Book 3 is about supernormal powers and thought, well, this is an important bit of information relating to supernormal powers that Patanjali's forgotten about, so let's just slip it in here. And it's not just me that thinks this. Georg Feuerstein in his translation and commentary says pretty much the same thing. I'll just read out what it says on page 125 of his book, which is his introduction to the Kaivalya Pada. An important misunderstanding must be clarified right away. This is the erroneous assumption originated by Vyasa. Vyasa is the classical commentator of the Yoga Sutras, who many have followed, and naively followed by virtually all subsequent exegetes and translators, that the initial aphorisms, that's Sutras 1 to 6, treat of a specific paranormal feat, namely the ability to create artificial consciousnesses. This profound misinterpretation has been much reinforced by the very first aphorism, which, as Professor J.W. Hauer has realized, must definitely be considered as an interpolation. So in other words, it's something that's just been shoved in there. And as such, we can just ignore it. Sri Iyengar in his commentary sees these as referring to different types of yogi, which, if you want to look at it that way, why not? But from a wisdom point of view, this is of no relevance whatsoever. But let's have a look at it anyway. Supernormal powers can be a factor of birth. In other words, you can be born with them. Perhaps you can be some kind of superhero mutant. Herbs, or what we'd normally call drugs. When you take drugs, you can certainly feel like you've got supernormal powers. But that's quite a different thing to saying that you've actually got them. For example, you might feel like you can fly, in which case it's always best to practice this from the ground rather than jumping out a window. Mantra, by chanting certain phrases or the names of deities, these operate like sonic talismans and are supposed to grant you certain powers. Tapas, well, if you want to stand on one leg for several eons, the gods might grant you a boon, or samadhi. So I think even if you want to believe that Patanjali's Yoga Sutras is about supernormal powers, you'll find them completely useless if that's how you're wanting to proceed. And in fact, if Patanjali's Yoga Sutras were about supernormal powers, they would be completely useless, because you're not going to learn how to develop supernormal powers from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. But what we do have in Sutra 2, we are told that the great flow of life allows for transition to another dimension. And what we're being told about is that in the midst of life there is the possibility of liberation. There's the possibility of this Kaivalya, of being able to step onto this rock from which everything becomes clear. This rock of liberation. This is the image that comes to mind here in this book, of standing on this rock, which is at first slippery and can be easy to fall from, and which at times can be a struggle to get back onto. But if we keep coming back to it, then it's as if this rock becomes more and more solid and becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, until this mighty torrent of a river becomes like a trickle. This is Kaivalya.